Hello there, Seraphim17 once again, introducing you to my Modern Warfare 3 Veteran Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Stronghold, and this is the beginning of Act 3. So as soon as you turn up here, you're going to be in night vision with Price, and my throat just went super dry for no real reason. What the fuck was that about? And Price is going to be pretty mad, because the events of the last video have affected him, and it's also tainted his opinion on you. And if you didn't pick that up by him waving a desert eagle in your mouth, that's pretty much what happened. And the entire start of this level is stealth, and the stealth stuff is very easy. When it gets to actually shooting, this is one of those levels that can be very challenging if you play it the wrong way. If you do it the right way, this is an easy level. There's one or two shootouts that are noteworthy, there's one or two that you can kind of skip if you do it the right way, and there's one towards the end where I get so lucky on the spawn that I push up so quickly they don't get a chance to formulate a massive force, and it's a very cheap and very easy way of pushing that area and getting it done. But for the most, this stealth area at the start is exceptionally long, and it just involves following Price and doing exactly what he says. And you'll notice that I don't shoot really anybody, and I believe that you can do it because he says to you only shoot what you can kill, and I just decided not to shoot because it's easier that way, and I didn't want any, you know, ruckus or any unnecessary attention type of thing. But just keep following Price, and I'm going to digress and talk about something a little bit different. So when I was uploading my Uncharted 3 guide, anybody that was following it or using it will notice that there was a big gap over a weekend where I uploaded a bunch of videos, and then as soon as the weekend hit, I didn't upload anything until the following Sunday. And I posted a bulletin basically explaining that I'd gone to a games convention, and that's why the uploads had not come. So I'm going to go into the story of what that was, and explain it a little bit, and just share the memory, because it was fucking awesome. And it was called the Replay Expo, and it was in a convention centre, in a castle, in a place called Blackpool. And Blackpool's in England, if you're not too good with geography, and it's kind of like a seaside. It's next to the coast. It's a seaside town that's renowned, or it used to be renowned, especially during the 80s and the early 90s, for being a place to take your family and having kind of a hedonistic side to it. So there was all the family-oriented stuff, and then there was the over 21s kind of hen nights, lots of people going out and getting pissed, lots of bright lights, lots of amusements, lots of things to do, you know, the place that never sleeps type of thing. And for a coastal town in England, it's not too bad, because there's nothing here like fucking Vegas, so the half frame of reference is not quite as epic as an American would probably have. But it does everything it says on the tin. The only problem is Blackpool has fallen from grace in those, you know, innocent days of like the 80s and what have you. So these days it's kind of just a dirty kind of, you know, it's that dude who hasn't, it's that old rocker, it's that dad rocker that hasn't realised that his time has passed him by, and he's still trying to cling to that shred of fame that he held for 30 seconds back in 1964, and his hair's receding so much so that his ponytail looks like it's slipping off the back of his head. He's wearing trendy new clothing and Converse to try and fit in with the kids, but he just can't quite pull it off, and he just looks like that greasy paedophile that chases little children. And that is kind of what it's turned into. And if you live there, you'll know exactly what I mean. So you can't really get that defensive for it, because I had a very romanticised vision of Blackpool, but when we went, it was not what I imagined, because the last time I was there, to give you any kind of indication, I was in a fucking pram. So my memories of Blackpool are not all that good, but when we got there, it was lots of lights, because the lights were up, which is something that they do every year around Bonfire Night, and it was just, you know, just the standard thing, lots of lights, lots of trams, lots of shops, lots of nightclubs, lots of amusements, lots of people walking around, lots of people on hen do's, and mountainous amounts of sick. I don't know who these people are that go to Blackpool to fucking drink, but none of them can take their alcohol, because there was sick everywhere. It's like, the last time I saw this much sick, I was watching South Park on the, you know, Farty McScrewball episode where they're reading that book that the children have written and everyone's being sick. That is how much fucking sick I saw. It was unbelievable. It made no sense. But we ended up catching the train down, and that was a work of art, 'cause we had to take about 3 of the bloody things, and it was kind of expensive. But we finally got there and we found our hotel, and the hotel was a pretty humble bed and breakfast. It was nothing too extravagant because we were trying to save as much money as I could, me and my girlfriend. This section here, if you kill all these guys, when you go up to the left, where his aimer was aiming, where I took out that last guy up here, the guy on the right will always know you're here for some reason. He's killed me a couple times because, for whatever reason, he's just aware of your position. Yet this silly bastard has no idea. That one guy is a pain in the ass, so be careful with him. But we turned up to the bed and breakfast, and it was a house that had been kind of renovated into, you know, 3 floors in this house that had been turned into a makeshift hotel. And the front room with the TV was also the dining room, and it had this really quaint woman who was kind of the manager lady, who was kind of like that your friend's grandma type figure who's not too old, and she's still kind of hip and cool, and she's walking around with, you know, curlers in and flip-flops and just being a generally decent person and extremely polite and what have you. So a nice atmosphere, to say the least. This section here, if you clip on these cases, you can shoot people before they can shoot you. It's a fantastic spot for cover. Just be careful when you push through this room, because you will get rushed, and there's a whole bunch of spawns. That's that weird lag / processor delay that the game does, that a lot of recent games do, that I absolutely fucking hate, but you can't avoid that. And just push your way through this room intelligently. Watch what I do, try and emulate it as best as you can. Just note that it might be slightly different for you because the AI is very adaptive. And the doorway that I'm looking at across there to the right, be careful, because as soon as you push down that avenue, 2 guys spawn and they killed me because I completely forgot about them, so don't do the same. But we got our room anyhow. The keychain that they gave me, they had 3 keys on it, one for our door, one for like a main door, and I assume one for the outside door, but we never got to test them. The keys were fussy as shit, so you stood there like a moron, putting them in, turning them, twisting them, not was unlocking, not was locking. It's like, what the fuck is this key? Can't we just have a fancy card, or like a retina scanner or something? That's the guy that caught me off guard. Sorry, it's only one person, but he can do a lot of damage, so just be aware. And when we got in the room, it was nothing special. It had an ensuite, it had a nice double bed, it was everything you could need, and on top of the wardrobe was an old CRT television. It was about 17 inches, it had got a massive fat ass on it. I didn't even realise those fucking TVs existed anymore. And when we tried to turn it on, we tried to get it working, it had an aerial, and the aerial was just not displaying anything. It was an absolute work of art. And I am a child of this technological generation, so I'm not too bad with making TVs work, but I couldn't for the fucking life of me figure out how to get this one working. Luckily enough, we didn't need it because we weren't there long enough, and we could spend our time doing different things and seeing the rest of the town and everything, so it wasn't a massive priority. But the lamp in the room didn't work, the TV didn't fucking work, there was wallpaper dinted and chipped and completely removed where the headboard had been banged into the wall from, you know, vicious animalistic sex, and it was just... It had an air of almost seediness, but not seediness because it was still kinda nice, and it was just a decent average hotel, and there was nothing wrong with that. But the convention itself was a tram ride away in this lovely fancy hotel in its kind of convention hall, and it was absolutely massive. It was like a mini E3. I've never been to a gaming event that was this big, and the last one I went to, which I thought this was going to be like, was an arcade convention, and it was pretty much a little room filled with cabinets. There was about 200 cabinets, and I absolutely loved it. And this time, when I entered in, it was nothing like I expected, because they only had about 50 cabinets all up one side of the room, and there was only 2 cave games, which are the crazy shooting games that you see on my channel, that I really enjoy, and I go to play on the little candy cabs, but they only had 2, and it was a bit of a shame, but it made up in so many ways, because what I didn't realise is, it was just a games convention in general, so it literally had every single console from the PS3 and the Xbox 360 to the fucking Atari and the Commodore and things I didn't even know what they were, and I'm pretty well versed on gaming. I've been infatuated by it for years, but just stuff that predated me a long time, and it was unbelievable. There was collectors that had all sorts of rare games and rare systems that had brought their stuff and set them up in front of TVs, and the way it was set up is, the further into the room you got, the older the consoles became, and there was just tables full of TVs hooked up to NESs, SNESs, you know, Genesises or Mega Drive depending on what you call them, Commodores, Dreamcasts, N64s, GameCubes, PlayStations. And they had everything from Time Crisis 2 with the gun to Duck Hunt with the gun. They had Time Splitters 2 on the N64. They had an entire circle of about 20 TVs, old shit TVs, but it didn't matter. It was the original Xbox with Halo 2 console linked. They had Gears 3 set up on a bunch of Xboxes. Battlefield 3 set up on a bunch of PS3s. They had a massive stage with a bunch of douchebags from Hollyoaks who I've never fucking heard of that did nothing but talk like wannabe DJs through the entire thing, and did nothing but piss me off. They had the Kinect set up. They had Modern Warfare 3 set up. They had Rock Band full band kit set up. It was absolutely phenomenal, sorry, that's not a word. Well, it is a word, but I used it incorrectly. It was immense, and it was... I can't even use words. It was such a fun time. They even had seminars with games developers and all sorts of people in the gaming industry doing little talks and stuff in a conservatory. And the only problem with that is they completely got the audio levels wrong. They were using really shitty speakers. The mics had obviously not been tested because nobody could hear a fucking thing. And the room was filled with arseholes that were just sat at the bar talking, so you couldn't hear the stage, and you could hear the fat guy behind you telling him how he's got piles and he's trying to fuck his wife, but he's too busy feeling sore because his balls are slapping against his arsehole. And it's just like, I don't want to know this, dude. I want to listen to these professionals telling me about, you know, creating worms, because one of the developers was Team 17, an English game developer based in Huddersfield, who are pretty fucking awesome, but haven't made anything really that good since Worms, unfortunately. But it was just a fantastic day, and there was 2 days worth of it. And they had shops that were selling game t-shirts, that were selling games, that were selling the big cardboard cutout stands and game posters. They were selling everything. There was even a Dance Dance Revolution mat and one of those Japanese drumming games and the Super Happy Bishi Bashi Championship game, or whatever the fuck that was, where you press the 3 buttons and it's all super crazy fast and you don't know what's happening. They had everything you could have wanted. Within reason. They had so much stuff. It was ridiculous. They were sponsored by an energy drink called Kick Energy, and they had a massive 4x4 Jeep that had Arkham City built into the back of it, of a big TV, and built into the side windows which you could play. So you were effectively playing Arkham City out of a damn Jeep. It was ridiculous. And speaking of Dance Dance Revolution, there was this like Native American guy. It could have been of any kind of ethnicity, I wasn't too sure, but there were a lot of people playing it, and I saw him walk up to it, and he was wearing just this blue t-shirt that had a logo on its breast pocket, and I couldn't see what it was, and the dude put it on like Master, you know, insane, totally arse bandit crazy, and pretty much played it perfectly. He got a 1,000+ combo. He was even doing bits that looked like Michael Flatley, where he was tapping so fast, it was unbelievable. And when he got off completely wet with sweat, he had a shirt that said DDRUK.com or something silly. So this guy's like one of those niche, absolute psychopaths that's really awesome and obsessed with DDR. So that was kind of cool to see. And I'm going to have to interject from my story here to tell a bit more strategy. This is the area that if you push quick enough you can kind of get ahead of the spawn, but just be very careful because you'll get shot a lot. But if you follow what I do, you'll notice I get super lucky, because as I push onto this balcony, the enemies haven't had a chance to spawn yet, so there's only 1 or 2 of them. And usually this balcony's full of dudes, but if you can get where I get, you can take them all off guard, and you can get to the end of the level with no trouble whatsoever. But they were doing competitions that you could sign up for on everything from Smash TV to Pac-Man on the original cabinet to Halo Reach. They had everything. They had a lot of awesome stuff. The one thing that kinda frustrated me a little bit was there was a bunch of TVs set up, but there was no games on them, so you couldn't do anything, and all the Xboxes and the PlayStations were super full, so you had to queue to get to them, and there was all these stations set up but not being played with anything, which was really disappointing. And they didn't have Call of Duty. They had Modern Warfare 3 in a solo booth. They had Black Ops towards the end, but it was just a bunch of kids playing zombies that have obviously watched far too much of Syndicate's videos. And it was a little bit disappointing that I didn't get a chance to play against some people on a console link, because it would have been really fun. And the last thing that kind of sucked was the Rock Band full band setup. They never ever had a Guitar Hero 1 or a Guitar Hero booth. And I know a lot of people prefer Rock Band because they don't milk the series, but I prefer Guitar Hero's timing window, and I'm actually pretty good at the game, so it would have been nice to show off in front of people I didn't know, in all honesty, because there's nothing better than being good at something than showing somebody that you're good at something. And I didn't have that opportunity. But it was just absolutely amazing. And if you're in England and you're an avid gamer and you're old enough to use a train or get a taxi, or you've got a dad or a relative that loves to drive you places, or if you're driving yourself, check it out the next time it's happening, because if you're a gamer, it's insane not to go. They were selling some of the rarest things I've ever seen. For instance, they had these are not exactly rare, but they had the Final Fantasy soundtracks by Nobuo Uematsu, the 4-disc collector's items, and these go for some serious money on eBay, and I ended up picking up the Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack for 22 quid, and I know that sounds a lot to some people, but considering I paid 50 quid for Final Fantasy IX soundtrack, that to me is a bargain. And if that wasn't good enough, you walked out of the convention centre and across the road was a traditional fish and chips restaurant that did some pretty awesome fish. So it was win-win for everybody there. And I can't wait to go next year, and hopefully I'll be taking a camera with me next year so I can make some YouTube videos out of it and share the experience with the people listening. And on top of that too, I'll also be wearing a shirt with my gamer tag on it, so if I do have anybody there who actually knows my videos, they can come and say hi and realise that I'm not some, psychopath. I'm actually just a dude that you can talk to and you don't have to feel embarrassed. So that is the end of the Stronghold mission. I do apologise that I digress like a motherfucker, but they were not the hardest of missions and not too much strategy to talk about. But as per normal people, I will see you in the next video. I hope you're enjoying the guide. I hope you're using the videos, and you take care now.